It's a major battle. How it plays out, we're not 100% sure. But a couple things we do know. We do know that whether you like George Bush or you don't like George Bush, okay, that regardless of how you feel about President Bush, okay, we know that Israel has had no greater friend than George Bush since Harry Truman. None. Don't let the media fool you. Don't let liberal columns and people that the hate Bush crowd. Okay, don't let them deceive you. Okay, I'm not talking about his Social Security privatization plan and other things he may or may not. I'm not talking about that. When it comes to Israel, okay, and when it comes to the nation of Israel, the state of Israel, the Jewish state of Israel, has had no bigger friend than George Bush since Harry Truman. He is the best friend Israel has. Trust me. Okay? And so what Bush does is he withdraws and lets Israel do what it wants, which is what a friend does. I trust you, you trust me, do whatever you have to do. I'm not interested. And that bothers the world because they want Bush to what? To clamp down on the Jews so that the Jews will do their bidding and the bidding of the beast. Okay, so this Bush is as I mentioned, is a friend of Israel. And we have the people of Israel, the nation of Israel, which is basically, as we know, a friend of the United States, fighting Hezbollah. We know that just like in World War I began because of what? The supposed assassination of King Ferdinand and the sinking of the Lusitania, all these things. These are just the straw that breaks the camel's back. Okay? The truth of the matter is that this is a war of proxy. What we're seeing here in the Middle East now is a war of proxy. It is nothing more, it is nothing less. It is a battle of World War III. I don't know which battle it is. I believe it's a battle toward the beginning of World War III, which began when? 9/11. It's a war of proxy. It's Israel fighting and representing the United States as part of. We're getting some feedback, Angela. Don't lower the monitor, but take off the other stuff. Versus Hezbollah. Now, Hezbollah captured, kidnapped 2 Israeli soldiers and killed, what, 7 more Israeli soldiers, right? Okay, that's what the outer reasoning is. But the reason behind the reason is Hezbollah cannot build Katyusha rockets and missiles that reach 40 miles into Israel in apartments, condominiums, and backyards. These missiles are manufactured and put together and shipped in from Iran. Now, Hezbollah began to become active only when Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, the president of Iran, was elected. Okay, now that was a kind of like a free election. Okay, and what happened when Iran had a kind of, it was a pseudo or quasi-free election. Look who comes into power, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. And what is Mahmoud Ahmadinejad's policy? His policy is this. He's a denier of the Holocaust. And all the while planning the next one. He says, I don't believe in the historical Holocaust, but I sure plan on being the catalyst for the next one. Does any of this make sense? So he's a denier of the Holocaust, calling for Israel's utter destruction, and planning the next one. And so and isn't it interesting, he comes from the same place, Persia, where we had that other madman, Haman. So no doubt Ahmadinejad is an Amalekite, because there's a seed of Amalek still in Persia to this day. Just like Hitler also probably had Amalekite blood. So there is a seed, the seed of Haman. What happened to his children? Well, his sons were hung, but no doubt that there were other Amalekites in the kingdom of Iran, and it was formerly Persia. Those Amalekites are still there, and today we call them, many of the Amalekites are Shiite Muslims. So Hezbollah has been gathering these weapons for the last 6 years, gathering, storing, stocking, gathering, storing, stocking, gathering, storing, stocking these weapons, strengthening themselves, waiting for their supplier and their benefactor, Iran, to say now. Okay, So we've had all these political statements by Mahmoud Ahmadinejad on how he plans to destroy Israel, and he's dedicated to the destruction of Israel. But at the same time, we see Hezbollah, after 6 years, rearing its ugly head and coming into the forefront and aggressively doing things that it was only sporadically doing previously. All the times before, it was doing things sporadically. Now they're brazen and bold. And yesterday, the leader of Hezbollah said, Israel wants an open war, and we're going to give them an open war. If that's what they want, then that's what we're going to give them, an open war. What they're basically saying is this. They're saying we are guerrillas and we are terrorists. And we acknowledge that in the past we fought Israel in a guerrilla-like manner, in a terrorist-like manner. But because of the fact that Iran is now commanding us, that they've given us all these weapons, they've given us all this ammunition, they are dictating to us, or they are telling us that we are to no longer wage a guerrilla war or a terrorist type war, but you want an open war, that's what the head of Hezbollah said yesterday. You want an open war, that's what you have. You'll have an open war. We'll give you an open war. And so now they're firing missiles on Israeli warships. And they're firing missiles on Israeli soldiers. That's open warfare. That's not terrorism. Because Iran has determined that it is through their client organization, Hezbollah, it is basically a wing of the Iranian government to enact the will of Iran. Make sense? So Hezbollah is doing the will of Iran. Israel is doing the will of the United States, which in this case is told. And the two main players don't want to face off with each other. It's one of the most brilliant strategies of warfare is to fight your battles through proxy. Okay? And let someone else do the fighting while you sit back and really are the one that is seeking the confrontation. You follow me? Yes. Okay. So you asked for this. This is what Yahweh is going to share with you. Okay? So I gave you the option. So this is what I'm sharing with you. So therefore, the taking of the Israeli soldiers and on one front, the Gaza, which is in the west, the eastern Mediterranean Sea, that's one front where terrorists are launching missiles. Then we have Lebanon in the north, they're launching missiles at Israel. So there's a two-front war, but one is the Sunnis, Hamas are Sunnis, and Hezbollah are Shiites. Hamas is the arm or the extension of the government in Damascus or in Syria, while Hezbollah is the extension of Iran. So in essence, it is the proxy of Syria and Iran versus the United States and Israel. At some point in the near future, what's going to happen is this. And you remember when I was teaching you the series on the beast? Remember? Over the last 3 or 4 months, I was teaching you week by week. How can you forget, right? It was the last 3 or 4 months we talked about the series of the beast. What I was saying was, and I think I prophesied. I know I prophesied this with Rivka also at home, that before December of this year, a lot of the things we are reading and studying here is going to come out into the open. And the world will see not a one-world government, but a one-world Islamic coalition attacking Israel. So and then I'll take your question. So how do I see this playing out? I think if Israel is smart, and sometime, being a good politician and being the fourth strongest military in the world doesn't mean you have smart Ruach-filled leadership. It would be nice if you had smart Ruach-filled leadership, but it doesn't always work out that way. If I were Prime Minister Ehud Omer, right, the former mayor of Yerushalayim, who took over for Teddy Kollek, remember Teddy Kollek? What I would do is I would dismantle Hezbollah in southern Lebanon and go home. End. Finished. Dismantle Hezbollah. You remove the immediate threat. Keep troops stationed in the Gaza Strip, in Gaza, to discourage these continuing attacks and these continual rockets coming upon Israel. And go into more of a defensive mode, because this thing is going to flare up. There's no question. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of what month. Okay? Especially according to Bible prophecy. So if I was Israel, I would retreat. Why? Because what Iran wants to do through their client Hezbollah, and what Damascus, Syria wants to do through their client, Hamas, is draw Israel into a global conflict against Islam, the Islamic beast, on their terms. And if we don't withdraw, I say we because that's us, right? Turn to your neighbor and say that's us. If we don't withdraw, then we're going to get sucked into the trap. The trap is Iran and Syria have laid a trap for us and draw us in deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. You follow me? Israel will confront Iran, but we should do so on our terms. Not when they trick us and draw us into a global conflict. Because then we lose the element of surprise. If this becomes a domino effect, Lebanon, Syria, Iran, okay, if this becomes a domino effect and the whole Middle East goes up into conflagration, or whatever that word is, okay? Then what happens is we got sucked in. And then we are fighting Iran on their terms when they want to fight us. And Mahmoud Ahmadinejad is hungry to go. He's ready, willing, raring, hungry. To him, the destruction of Israel is not 6 million dead. What an ironic number, 6 million citizens of Israel. To him, his idea of victory is killing it. If you have 5 Jewish babies killed, it's a victory. 3 babies killed, it's a victory. That's a sick mind. He denies the Holocaust, all the while he's planning the next Holocaust. What kind of a devil is this guy? This guy, the president of Iran, is a demon of demons. He says, I am Haman, come get me. And yesterday he ridiculed Israel and the United States, saying, you don't even have this, forget about fighting us, you bunch of yellow bellies. You don't even have the strength to look at us. Why don't you come here and look at us? Okay, this is the Islamic beast taunting the West. Okay. Where is it going to head? I believe that Israel will fall into the trap. Instead of withdrawing and saying in November, right around Christmas or December, Thanksgiving, whatever, or the other way around, in the middle of the night, we're going to pay you and your mama a visit in Tehran, unexpected. Good morning, rise and shine. Because then we do it on our terms. But I'm afraid that Israel is being sucked into a global conflict, a regional global conflict. Now, what you have to remember, if you remember nothing else, this is the United States fighting Iran. Don't be deceived by Hezbollah says this, Hamas says this. It is the United States versus Iran. These are the money players. These are the coordinators. These are the sponsors. The United States sponsors Israel, and Iran sponsors Hezbollah, and Damascus sponsors. In other words, Hezbollah and Hamas could not exist without the financial and the military hardware coming from these states. State-sponsored terrorism. These are states that sponsor terrorism. Without the sponsor, the sponsoree. It's like AA. You don't have a sponsor, you can't get in. They can't function without a sponsor. So these are their sponsors. Ultimately, before December, before the end of this year, what's going to happen is we're going to have the Gog and Magog Confederation apparent to the world. We're going to have the ships and the warships of Kittim, the Western Alliance, the UK, the United States, Italy, maybe Poland, Israel, maybe a couple of other nations. So the world is divided now into light versus darkness, into Islam versus the Judeo-Christian nations and cultures. It's a division. It's not black, white, Hispanic. No, 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 no. It is a division of the world into the culture of life and the culture of death. And we've been talking about that. We've been talking about that for these past few months. So what you see on your television is going to lead to this. The ultimate confrontation will happen between Israel and Iran. If Israel does not attack Iran, they will cease to exist as a state. There is no doubt in my mind Okay, when Hitler was writing Mein Kampf, nobody took him seriously. When he made a push in the Munich beer hall, nobody took him seriously. These things don't just develop. Haman had it in his heart. He had a hatred for Mordecai before Queen Esther ever rose to power. He already had a hatred for Mordecai. If Aminadab says he is going to destroy Israel, you can bet he's going to try. Now, here's the question. He will have nuclear weapons. There's no question about it. The scientists have verified, others have verified, that they have already enriched uranium. They even did a uranium dance to Allah a few months back. You may have seen it on TV. They got on TV and they were, and they were waving, like you know how we wave holy hands when we worship Yahweh? They were waving these canisters of uranium. Here it is. We're months away. Many of you saw that. There was a uranium dance that they did before Allah. It was like a worship service. There was music, they were lifting their